So you had another application problem last night for your homework, and I'm going to go over that so you can see if you did it right here. All right, so Gloria is weighing combinations of geometric solids. She found that 4 cylinders, so we've got 4 cylinders and 5 prisms weigh 32 ounces. Okay, and then she found that 1 cylinder and 8 prisms equals 35 ounces. So we need to write and solve a system of equations. So this right here, here's your system of equations. If you are not comfortable with using variables other than x and y, because when we're solving, so we could let x be our cylinders and y be our prisms. I do think it's easier to switch them over to x and y, especially if you're going to use the method of graphing. Okay, so our new system then would be 4x plus 5y equals 32, and x plus 8y equals 35. You also have to have it in x and y if you are going to go and use Desmos. But before we use Desmos, I want to solve this thing algebraically so that you can see how to do that in case you need to do that for your quiz today. So the first thing that we need to do is get the y by itself. So to do that, I'll subtract 4x from both sides, and I would end up with 5y equals 32 minus 4x. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 5, and I end up with y equals 32 minus 4x over 5. For my next one here, I'm going to subtract my x, so I end up with 8y equals 35 minus x, divide by 8, and I get y equals 35 minus x over 8. So here are my two equations that I'm going to use. Okay, and if you remember from our previous problems, we will set these to equal to each other. So I'm going to do that on this sheet of paper here. So we'll have 35 minus x over 8 equals 32 minus 4x over 5. And then remember, at this point, I'll put these in parentheses. I can cross multiply. So I have 5 times 35 minus x equals 8 times 32 minus 4x. Okay, so the next step in is to distribute. So I have 5 times 35. That gives me 175 minus 5x when I distribute this equals 8 times 32 is 256 minus 32x. All right, so I'm going to move my x's over here. And I have 175 plus 27x equals 256. Then I'm going to subtract my 175. And then I end up with 27x equals 81. Divide by 27. And x equals 3. X equals 3. So I know that my cylinders are going to weigh 3 ounces. Now to find my prism weight, I need to plug it back into one of the original equations. So I'm going to plug this back into just, we have x plus 8y equals 35. So I have 3 plus 8y equals 35. Subtract 3. and I get 8y equals 32. Divide by 8, y equals 4. So my prisms weigh 4 ounces. So again, you have to be careful what it's asking, because the question may just say, hey, how many ounces are the prisms? Well, you need to be able to recognize that y, if you look back here, y was my prisms. So it would be the 4 instead of the 3. Just a reminder, if you have the option, a lot of times using a graph can be much more helpful, or it's a good way to check your work. So I'm going to type in my equations here. So I had 4x plus 5y equals 32, and x plus 8y equals 35. So if you would keep these as C and P, they would not graph. So you do have to switch to x and y. And remember, I'm looking for the intersection point. So sure enough, the intersection point is at 3, 4. And we said that x represents our cylinders. So just like when we solved algebraically, cylinders were 3 and prisms were 4. So just another way to check your work, or to use this if you don't need to solve algebra.